beautiful mama. So I just wanted to do a really short video on pushing because I think it's something that's really misunderstood. I, for one, before having had babies, thought that this was going to be, the most painful part of labour, and that, I was going to be torn to shreds, and that, there's a thing called the ring of fire, and oh my God, that's what you see in all the movies, right? Women screaming and people saying, push, 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 and all this kind of thing. And it's just yet another myth and complete bollocks, frankly. This is not how it happens, okay? Or this is certainly not how it should happen. So let me tell you how it should happen and how it did happen for me 5 times. So it wasn't just a coincidence and it wasn't just luck. And anyone who's kind of given birth the way I have has had the same luck. Okay, so pushing, I'm just gonna use the analogy of going to the toilet to have a poo, okay? It should be easy, right? Now, the reason I thought of this today was because, I'm gonna share something a little bit intimate with you. I have been a little bit constipated over the past few days, but this is such an unusual phenomenon for me. I literally can't remember the last time that I had difficulty passing the stool. 20 odd years ago, probably. Back in the day when I didn't realise that, drinking water was actually quite an important thing to do. And I was probably drinking more white wine and Coke and things like, Coca-Cola, not cocaine. And yeah, just didn't know real basic things about staying healthy. But for some reason, I have been constipated over the last 2 or 3 days, and it's been a real pain in the arse, no pun intended, because it's just like, what is going on? Usually I feel I need to go to the toilet. I go within 1 or 2 minutes, I'm done. I've evacuated the stool efficiently without any straining required whatsoever, and that's it. My husband, on the other hand, it can be in there for half an hour to an hour. I don't think he's actually passing a stool. I think he's in there on his phone, like most of our husbands are, and he's just finding a cave, a quiet place to escape me and my 5 kids and the 5 pets. That's what he's really up to. I don't think he's actually constipated because we have the same diet. So, not to elaborate about the pooing analogy too much, but we're predominantly vegan or vegan. We do have happy eggs. So, we eat a lot of fibre. We eat a lot of brown rice and brown bread. We drink basically only water and peppermint tea. I know, how boring, right? But that's it. We don't drink alcohol. We don't drink Coke or any other fizzy drinks that are harmful. So yeah, going to the toilet is effortless. Passing the stool is truly easy as ABC. And same for our children. They're regular, sometimes 2-3 times a day with them. And I can literally think of one occasion where one of my sons has been constipated, and it's because he didn't drink enough water. And I think it was a week of not eating that well because we'd been flying back from England to Costa Rica, so we had plain food and just crappy snacky food. It wasn't, but it really had an impact on him, obviously. So anyway, most of the time we're fine, and it made me think of giving birth today. When I was there struggling to get this poo out, I thought, oh my gosh, is this what it maybe feels like for some women when they're in labour and they haven't done the right things to get them to a place where the actual pushing part is like automatic. The body's doing it. There's no effort required. I'm not saying that in labour it's not intense. It is. It's definitely something you wouldn't miss if you blinked. So it's not as easy as passing the stool, but it's definitely something that you don't need to think about doing. And it's not something that you need to be involved in doing in a mental capacity when you're having a baby to push, which is what the movies would have you believe, right? And the reason it's not like that is because if you're in a labour that's been progressing naturally and normally and your oxytocin levels are really high and you're just calm, you're chilled out and you're definitely not full of fear, then what happens is you get to a point where you've been having contraction after contraction or surge or wave, whatever you want to call it. That's been happening for quite a long time now, and they're coming closer and more intensely together. And you may think, when am I going to get the urge to push? Because it still isn't happening. I'm just getting these surges, which basically just feels like very, very intense period pains. Your muscles are just all tightening up and pushing the baby down and squeezing. You've got 3 bands of muscles doing that. But it can take a while to actually feel like you are ready to push. So you should never do it, never consciously do it. If you're in this relaxed state and you can decide what position you're in, so often gravity will help you if you're kind of in an upright position on the toilet or standing up or on all fours or whatever your body wants to do at the time, you will find a way if you're not taking an epidural or any drugs like that. You'll just be having your waves and contractions and moving around, and you'll be waiting for this urge to push. But it really can take a while. And with all of mine, I was, I got quite concerned because I would say things to my husband like, okay, I'm getting loads of surges, but this is relentless. When is the baby going to come out? When am I going to start pushing? And as soon as I said it, really, it started. And I think the big thing to release at that point is to just surrender, is to just say out loud, all right, baby, I'm ready to meet you. I'm done with this, like contraction after contraction. Let's get on with it. And then often something like the water will break or something physical will then happen because you've had an emotional release. And the fetal ejection reflex kicks in. And that can only really happen if you have loads of oxytocin coursing through your body. So you need to be really, really relaxed. And then, believe you me, there is no doubt that this baby is coming out. The urge to push is overwhelming. You have no choice. Women in comas deliver their babies because of this fetal ejection reflex, and obviously they're super relaxed if they're in a coma, right? And it's just like this bearing down. The only way I can describe it, but it's not really a very good analogy because there's nothing quite like how powerful it is. It's like if you've got the squits or diarrhea, should we call it, when you have no choice, you've got to run to the loo and it's happening, yeah? And this fetal ejection reflex is like that. It's just like, whoo, it's just happening. And all your muscles are just doing this thing. And suddenly you have this overwhelming, overbearing urge, just like, ooh, to push. And it literally takes the wind out of your lungs. And your whole being is just focused on this push. And nothing anyone could do or say at that point is going to stop you doing that. This fetal ejection reflex is incredibly powerful. So again, it makes me laugh when you hear stories of people saying, I was in hospital and they told me not to push. And it's like, well, how can you not? Like, if that's happening, there's no choice, And how dare people tell you when to push and when not to push? I get they have to tell you to push if you're drugged up and you can't feel anything and you've got no connection to when your contractions are happening. But in an ideal world, you would be in tune with your body and you'd be able to feel everything, and therefore you know when to push and when not to push. The beauty in this whole pushing thing and being connected to it is that the likelihood of you tearing is so minimalized if you're only pushing when your body is doing it automatically via the fetal ejection reflex. Because when that's happening, you're fully dilated, you're fully ready to go, it's all systems go. And because it's so powerful, I only had 2 or 3 huge surges and then the baby was born, be it the head first and then the body, or sometimes the whole baby in one hit. So the point of this video is really to say there is no need to actively push. Your body will do it completely automatically. You don't need to think about it. As long as you're relaxed, as long as your oxytocin is flowing, then this fetal ejection reflex will come in and it will take over, and you just need to be, an innocent bystander and witness it, basically. Just go with it. There's nothing you can do to fight it. And if you are in any way constipated, then you might want to rethink that as well and think, why am I constipated? Because you shouldn't be. Passing a stool should be really, really easy. It shouldn't be a strain. And if it is a strain, then you could be damaging not only your pelvic floor, but you might be more prone to hemorrhoids and things like that, which used to actually be something I did in the past. I used to help surgeons with people that suffer from hemorrhoids to deal with those hemorrhoids in a very minimally invasive way that wasn't painful. But that's my past, my crazy, glamorous past. But if any of you are suffering from hemorrhoids, please do feel free to reach out to me because I can help with that. So yes, no need to push aggressively, okay? All right, darlings, thank you so much for listening. And oh, by the way, that ring of fire thing, another myth. Honestly, you can say, hand on heart, it was amazing. The giving birth bit, the bit where the baby comes out of the birth canal, is the most wonderful, glorious feeling. I think it's up there with many of that I've ever had. It's such a relief. It's so satisfying. It doesn't hurt. It's just amazing. The bit that's intense are the contractions beforehand and the surges, the non-stop. But the bit where the baby comes out is amazing, and you do not have to fear it. And honestly, you will not tear if you can decide what position you're in and if you're really relaxed. Absolutely no need for you to tear whatsoever. The women that tear are the ones that are on their backs and are completely disconnected from feeling anything in their pelvic floor area because they're numb. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Thank you for listening. Just leave your comments below and click on the subscribe button if you found this video useful. Bye for now.